Meta AI is the personal AI to help you with whatever you need. Plus, it meets you where you are. Not only is Meta AI now an app, but it's also on the apps you already know and love. Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp, and Messenger. Plus the Ray-Ban Meta glasses. It's easy to access wherever you are. So whether you're talking or texting, Meta AI is convenient to use throughout your day. Experience our newest AI that's tailored to you by downloading the Meta AI app. Try the Meta AI app today on the Apple App Store and Google Play.
It's the 77 WABC News Hour.
Talking the news with Noam Laden.
All the news you need to know with Joe Nolan, traffic, Justin Ellick, sports. And now,
Talking the news with Noam
on 77 WABC.
Yes, that's me, 5 o'clock. Good morning. It is Monday, June 16th. Your forecast from the 77 WABC Weather Center. Showers this morning, clouds this afternoon, high 68. Tonight and overnight clouds, they hang around low 63. And then Tuesday, a mostly cloudy day, but no rain in the forecast, high 71. If you're walking out the door with us right now, 61 and cloudy in Peekskill up in Westchester County, 56 and cloudy in Alpine over in New Jersey, and it's 61 and cloudy right outside our Midtown studios.
The top 5 at 5.
Cops have cuffed a man wanted for murdering lawmakers in Minnesota. 2 men who escaped an ICE detention center in New Jersey still on the loose. New Yorkers taking advantage of early voting. Mayor Adams being criticized for the company he keeps. And twerking teens do damage in Brooklyn. All right, let's get into it at 5:01. Out to Minnesota. Police there providing more details on the capture of Vance Bolter. He's the man suspected of killing 2 Minnesota state lawmakers, injuring 2 others. Governor Tim Walz making the announcement last night.
After a 2-day manhunt, 2 sleepless nights, law enforcement have apprehended Vance Bolter.
Bolter captured alive near the Green Isle, which is a town in Minnesota, after being spotted on a trail earlier Sunday by camera. Brooklyn Park Police Chief telling reporters that the chase to capture Bolter was the largest manhunt in state's history. It included hundreds of detectives, 20 different SWAT teams. Bolter was armed when he was taken in. He's accused of killing state lawmaker Melissa Hortman and her husband. He's also accused of shooting Democratic Senator John Hoffman and his wife. Governor Tim Walz says Hoffman is out of surgery, moving towards recovery. But Walz, the governor, says this is now how things should be dealt with.
This cannot be the norm. It cannot be the way that we deal with our political differences. Now's the time for us to recommit to the core values of this country.
Now, police so far believe this guy acted all on his own.
We are confident that the violence that he committed and the murders he committed and the attempted murders, that he conducted that activity alone.
Minnesota Senator Amy Klobuchar says she knew state lawmaker Melissa Hortman well.
I got to know her when we were both in politics, starting out in local offices in the legislature for her, county for me, with kids. She had 2 young kids at the time.
Cops call the killing of Hortman and her husband and the shooting of Democratic Senator John Hoffman and his wife targeted. He's accused of dressing up in a police uniform, driving an SUV that resembled a police vehicle when he shot Hoffman and his wife at their home early Saturday morning. He then allegedly shot and killed Hortman and her husband. Hoffman is out of surgery in stable condition. However, police say he experienced significant injuries. Here's more from Senator Klobuchar.
She was this leader like no other. She worked in a practically tied legislature and got a budget done at the end of this year. Many of us were with her last night at a dinner in Minnesota. Then the other legislators also loved. We hope he's going to survive, he and his wife.
Yeah, that was the senator speaking over the weekend. And then she took to the news shows yesterday on Meet the Press. She says, the senator, that her security was increased, of course, after this assassin was out there.
They have added security without my request. So I think they're concerned about everyone. It was politically motivated, and there clearly was some through line with abortion because of the groups that were on the list and other things that I've heard were in this manifesto.
Yeah, well, all we can say right now is thank God he's off the streets. 5:04. Let's bring it back home to New York. Former Governor Andrew Cuomo going on the offense as early voting got underway on Saturday.
Cuomo has been leading in most polls for the crowded Democratic mayoral primary, but Queens Assemblyman Zoran Mamdani is gaining momentum. Cuomo says Mamdani has no experience.
You have to know how to make government work. And if you have no experience whatsoever in making government work, you're a two-term assembly person who's passed 3 bills.
The winner of the Democratic primary will go on to face Guardian Angels founder and WABC's very own Curtis Sliwa in the general election, along with current Mayor Eric Adams, who is running as an independent. I'm Liz Radabali for 77 WABC News.
Yeah, and the early numbers, relatively strong. So, of course, the question is, who does that benefit? That people are out Saturday and Sunday voting early for the primary. That'll take place June 24th. And then you had the candidates. They were out, of course, over the weekend trying to get their voters into the polling stations early, too, so they can count them off, of course, and then go after other people who haven't voted. Here's Scott Stringer, who's running for mayor.
We're seeing strong turnout, and we're seeing people very energized about the mayor's race, and I think that's good. People are ranking. I think people understand the ranking system better than last time.
Okay, so 2 candidates, of course, everybody has their eyes in the Democratic primary, Andrew Cuomo and Zoran Mamdani. Here's Zoran.
There are so many New Yorkers who have yet to make up their minds. And what we've seen in the polls for so many months have instead been polls that reflect name recognition. Polls that reflect the awareness of those very New Yorkers, not only of Andrew Cuomo, but of Mario Cuomo.
Now, you might have missed this interesting moment over the weekend. Of course, Father's Day, people busy. Zoran Mamdani and Brad Lander made this deal to endorse each other and told their voters to rank them 1 and 2 to potentially help one of those candidates beat Andrew Cuomo. So that deal was made over the weekend. And Andrew Cuomo, of course, has been the front runner in all the polls, but those polls have narrowed between him and Zoran Mamdani. Also out and about, he was criticizing the process, saying that people were too critical of lawmakers.
He'd be sick to his stomach to see what was going on.
He's talking about his father here, Mario Cuomo.
He'd be sick to his stomach to see what was going on. And part of this is Democratic primary is a chance for introspection. It's a chance for the Democrats to look in the mirror.
Okay, so voters were out this weekend taking advantage of early voting.
Makes it easier for working people. You can't always take off and, run and vote, and you might live in a different area than, where you work. And we always try and early vote.
Oh, well, okay. You have to vote at your assigned early voting site. Your early voting site might be different from the election day poll site, so of course you have to make sure before you do that. But here were the numbers over the weekend. So we don't have everything from Sunday, but 66,000 through most of the day Sunday, Saturday and Sunday voted early. Manhattan and Brooklyn had the highest numbers. 21,000 in Manhattan, 23,000 in Brooklyn, and then the numbers fell off big time for the other boroughs. But the first day of voting Saturday saw 30,000. So 60,000, that's higher than it has been in the past. Now, who does that help? Well, I guess we'll find out come June 24th. WABC News Time 5:09. Let's go out to New Jersey. ICE says they've arrested one of those, or rather now 2 of those 4 escaped detainees who broke out of an immigration detention center in New Jersey last week.
Authorities say Joel Enrique Sandoval Lopez was tracked down in Passaic and captured by the FBI and ICE. Sandoval Lopez was among 4 detainees being held at Delaney Hall in Newark, where ICE had been detaining people facing possible deportation. The 4 apparently kicked through a wall, ended up in a parking lot, and hopped a fence. NJ.com reports, according to Homeland Security, Sandoval Lopez had illegally entered the U.S. from Honduras in 2019 and had been arrested twice in Passaic for illegal gun possession and aggravated assault. I'm Lisa Salvati.
Yeah, still 2 on the loose this morning. We'll bring it back here into the city. The Columbia University student protester who won a big legal victory in his deportation case will remain in ICE custody now.
Federal Judge Michael Farbiarz ruled Friday that the Trump administration can continue to detain Mahmoud Khalil, this time as he faces charges for errors on his legal permanent resident application, though Khalil's ACLU lawyers say the government almost never detains people for that. On Wednesday, Judge Farbiarz ruled Khalil could not be held based on Secretary of State Marco Rubio's determination that Khalil was a national security threat using an obscure provision of a 1952 immigration law. Khalil, who grew up in a Palestinian refugee camp in Syria, was previously granted permanent U.S. resident status. Andrew Whitman, NBC News Radio, New Jersey.
WABC News Time 5:10. What a mess in the Middle East. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu defending his nation's military actions against Iran. When we left you on Friday, right, they had gone in and bombed some sites where potentially nuclear weapons were being created. In an interview with Fox News, Netanyahu said Israel will do whatever it is necessary to remove the nuclear threat Iran possesses.
We had to act. It was the 12th hour. We did act to save ourselves, but also, I think, to not only protect ourselves, but protect the world from this incendiary regime.
The escalation of airstrikes and missile attacks has resulted in a growing number of deaths in both countries. Iran and the U.S. were scheduled to hold another round of nuclear talks in Oman, but those talks canceled due to the conflict. Here's more from Prime Minister Bibi Netanyahu.
We can't have the world's most dangerous regime have the world's most dangerous weapons. We're protecting ourselves, but by doing so, we're protecting many others.
Israel had a lot of their lawmakers, politicians on the news shows over the weekend. Israel's ambassador to the U.S. says Iran's nuclear program is being set back by these series of attacks over the last couple days.
Yes, we've set them back dramatically, but not enough. And that's why this series of strikes is not going to end today or tomorrow.
That's Ambassador Leiter, and we saw more of those attacks over the weekend. Israel wasn't done yet.
The objective is not to contain the war. The objective is to win the war.
And Iran traded more missile attacks yesterday into last night, despite calls for a halt to the fighting. Iran said Israel struck its oil refineries, killed the intelligence chief of its Parliamentary Revolutionary Guard, hit population centers, and intensive aerial attacks that they say raised the death toll in Iran to 224 people. Health authorities say about 1,200 were wounded. Israel, which has aimed its missiles at Iran's advancing nuclear program, says that Iran fired 270 missiles towards Israel, though I think that number is actually a lot higher now. 14 dead in Israel, 390 others wounded. Again, that number no doubt will rise in the days as they come. Here's more from President Trump, who is hoping he can bring the sides together to stop the conflict.
I hope there's going to be a deal. I think it's time for a deal, and we'll see what happens. But sometimes they have to fight it out, but we're going to see what happens. I think there's a good chance there'll be a deal.
Yeah, so lots of Israelis in shelters overnight again a number of times as missiles came their way. The president warning Iran to stay away from U.S. targets as it gets involved in this conflict with Israel. Senate Majority Leader John Thune, he was on the news shows yesterday reiterating what the president said.
What I would suggest to Iran is that they not target Americans in any of this, because if they do, they better be prepared, because we will respond.
South Dakota Republicans' comments echoed President Trump's post on Truth Social. It warned that if the U.S. is attacked in any way, shape, or form by Iran, the full strength and might of the U.S. armed forces would come down like never before.
Iran should be prepared for all of America's might to descend upon them if they go after and target Americans or American bases or installations in the Middle East.
Okay, all kinds of conflicting reports about oil fields, oil storage units being fired at or bombed by Israel. Israel not confirming a whole lot, but oil prices are going to surge. In fact, they were surging over the weekend after Israel launched those strikes on Iran. Americans could soon feel a pinch at the pump. Now, the thought is that that pinch would be temporary if this conflict is temporary. You know the group Gas Buddy, which tells you where the best gas prices are across the country? They were speaking out about this over the weekend.
Israel could attack oil facilities, and it could disrupt the flow of oil out of Iran. That's going to affect anything that comes out of a barrel of oil, whether it's gasoline, diesel, or jet fuel, or even the price of plastic. So this could be pretty far-reaching.
Yeah, prices are about $73 per barrel. That was over the weekend, up from $69 at the end of Friday. And oil price analysts describe the impacts from the strikes as likely to be temporary. However, a price increase may also be felt by drivers at the pump. Iran, of course, is a significant global producer of oil despite sanctions placed on that nation. All right. In a moment, we'll tell you what the president's and why the president will be meeting with Canada's leader a little bit later today. But first, 5:15, let's head over to the 77 WABC Sports Desk. He's back. Good morning, Justin Ella.
Indeed, I survived. Thank you, Noam.
You were in the woods, correct?
I was, yeah. Just a little 2-night, 3-day camping trip. It was good. Quick 25-miler, if you will. The knees are barking this morning.
Wait, you walked 25 miles in the woods?
Yeah.
And then slept on the ground?
Yeah.
That sounds like the worst weekend ever.
I'll tell you, night 1 was a little worse than night 2. I had this big root coming up through the middle of my back. So that was...
That sounds like fun. Did you build your own tent?
Yeah.
Wow. I can't imagine you doing that.
The whole shebang, man.
Nobody built it for you?
Nope.
Wow.
From top to bottom.
And in a sleeping bag you slept?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah. That's how you
cooked your food over a fire?
Yeah, this is how you camp. You're just explaining to people how to camp.
Sounds totally miserable.
It was rather nice.
It was okay. Well, I'm glad you had a good time.
Well, we'll stay outside here. Out in Boston, the Yankees got blanked 2-0, capping off a 3-game series sweep at the hands of the Red Sox. AL East leading New York went 0-for-5 with runners in scoring position. They were swept in a series for the first time this year, getting shut out for the third time. Their 4 runs matched their fewest in a 3-game series at Fenway Park. And Aaron Judge went 1-for-12 in the series with a solo homer and 9 strikeouts, dropping his major league leading average to .378. He struck out 3 or more times in 3 straight games. After leading Boston to the win, though, with his 5th inning home run, Rafael Devers was shockingly traded just a few hours later to the San Francisco Giants in a blockbuster move that shook up the league. Boston received left-handed starter Kyle Harrison, right-hander Jordan Hicks, outfield prospect James Tibbs III, and rookie league right-hander Jose Bello in the swap. The Giants will cover the remainder of Devers' contract, which runs through 2033, and will pay him more than $250 million. Devers out of Boston. Up next for the Yanks, they'll return home to welcome in the LA Angels for a 4-game series starting tonight. Clark Schmidt will get the start in what will be a 7:05 p.m. first pitch from the Bronx. In Queens, the Mets got routed 9-0 by the Tampa Bay Rays in the finale of a 3-game set, suffering their first series sweep of the season in the process as well. New York pitchers walked to season-high 9 as the Mets were dealt their most lopsided loss this season and were swept in a series for the first time since last August. Griffin Canning allowed 6 runs, 4 hits, and a season-high 5 walks over 4 1/3 innings. Canning has a 6.75 ERA in his last 5 starts after posting a 2.47 in his first 9 starts. Up next for the Mets, they'll open a 6-game road trip tomorrow night in Atlanta after an off day today. We're looking ahead to hardwood action tonight, 8:30 p.m. in Oklahoma City between the Indiana Pacers and the Thunder for Game 5 of the NBA Finals. The series is tied at 2 games apiece, and in Game 5, the Thunder, they are 9.5-point home favorites. And yesterday, J.J. Spawn, if you've ever heard of that name before, pulled away from the pack and captured his first major championship with a 2-stroke victory in the 125th U.S. Open at Oakmont Country Club. He birdied the 17th hole to go ahead by 1 stroke, then made a 64.5-foot birdie putt on the 18th to secure that big
crazy
win. Yeah,
wow.
It was insane. You had that big rain delay.
Yeah.
And the course was really in bad shape. Puddles everywhere, but the grounds crew did a good job cleaning it up, get the guys back out there, and finish this thing up on Sunday so you're not sitting around having to wait for the end of this tournament today. But, this guy, J.J. Spawn, pulls away from the pack. Never heard of the guy before, but congratulations.
What a putt there, James.
Yeah, unbelievable. Rolled it right in for the win. That's your Sports Gnome. I'm Justin Ellick on 77 WABC.
WABC News Time 5:20. President Trump meeting with Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney today as the G7 summit gets underway in Alberta.
The two nations have been working on hammering out some sort of trade agreement in the face of tariffs imposed by President Trump. It's Trump's first visit to Canada since 2018. He's also scheduled to meet with Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. I'm Mark Mayfield.
Oh, say, can you see
So that was the beginning of the military parade in D.C. over the weekend. Did you watch it? Thousands of soldiers marching through D.C. in a parade celebrating the 250th birthday of the U.S. Army on Saturday night. It was also President Trump's 79th birthday, but the president noted that it was Flag Day when he spoke to the troops.
Thank you to the greatest, fiercest, and bravest fighting force ever to stride the face of this earth.
Now, I didn't watch the whole thing, I got to be honest, because UFC came on, but I did watch some of it, and it was really great to see the different troops and the artillery going through the streets of D.C.
On June 14th, 1775, liberty got its shield and the freedom got its sword. Those first Army patriots in the American Revolution fought against a fearsome enemy and impossible odds.
The president talking about how the Army is legendary.
No institution in history has entered more names into the roster of American heroes than the U.S. Army, the Congressional Medal of Honor, more than anyone or anything. This is the fighting spirit and unyielding force of the U.S. Army. It has never changed, and it will never, ever change, because there is no earthly force more powerful.
Yeah, it was nice to watch. Now, earlier in the day, the people who were upset about that parade and not fans of the president had their own little parade or demonstration, the No Kings demonstration taking place across the country. Pretty big turnouts, at least here in New York and some other areas. Avengers actor Mark Ruffalo was among the protesters here in New York, wearing a hat that read immigrant, and speaking to a crowd of demonstrators in Bryant Park.
Literally together, we're the Avengers now. No one's gonna come and save us, man. Americans unite.
No kings! No kings! No kings! No kings!
Now, this group said they had about 1,800 protests across the country.
We are all out here demonstrating on No Kings Day together at the same time, all across this country, claiming what it really means to be an American.
Together, we will survive this unnatural disaster in the White House. Together, we the people
now, of
have
course,
the power.
They had a decent turnout, but then you sort of have to say, well, what do they do to harness all that in the aftermath?
It's also no to mass goons disappearing our neighbors and our families and our loved ones. It's no to a government that is run by and for billionaires at our expense.
Yeah, so decent turnouts in big cities across the country. 524. The average age of first-time mothers in the U.S. has been increasing.
According to a new report from the CDC from 2016 to 2023, the mean age of mothers at first birth rose from 26.6 years of age to 27.5. The data also showed Asian women reported the largest increase, while Native Hawaiian and other Pacific Islander mothers had the lowest. Findings follow a years-long trend as women and men wait longer to have children. I'm Brian Shook.
WABC News Time 524. House Speaker Mike Johnson on the news shows over the weekend says he thinks Senator Alex Padilla should face consequences after the California Democrat was forcibly removed from a Department of Homeland Security news conference in Los Angeles last week. And that was a Kristi Noem press conference. No doubt you saw this video. Here was Mike Johnson over the weekend.
It's not my decision to make. I'm not in that chamber. But I do think that it merits immediate attention by their colleagues over there, and that they need. I think that behavior at a minimum is it rises to the level of a censure.
Johnson says members of Congress are supposed to lead by example, and he said this was not a good example. The video shows Padilla being forced to the ground, handcuffed after he tried to question Kristi Noem at this event last week. Noem claims Padilla was creating political theater and that he lunged at the podium. Padilla, though, says there was no lunging and that agents were on him in about a half a second.
When they push law enforcement agents around, when they storm cabinet secretaries in a press conference, I think it is wildly inappropriate behavior, and I think it sets a terrible message and tone for the rest of the country. A sitting member of Congress should not act like that. It is beneath a member of Congress. It is beneath a U.S. senator. They're supposed to lead by example, and that is not a good example.
WABC News Time 525. A hearing set for later today in Boston federal court over President Trump's effort to block Harvard from enrolling international students.
Harvard is asking the court to grant an order allowing student visa holders to enter the country to study while the legal battle continues. The Trump administration is asking the court to reject Harvard's request and deny the school any relief. International students make up 27% of Harvard's enrollment. I'm Tammy Trujillo.
And that would be huge, by the way, just to get a sense that, well, I won't tell you which university this was, but a local one telling me one of the heads of a local university saying that international students account for about 35% of their income. I'm hearing this secondhand, but it's good firsthand information that has handed to me secondhand. 35%. So that would be huge if they were banning international students for a lot of universities across the country, because I imagine for others, the number is probably even higher. Over 460 employees at the CDC are getting their jobs back after being laid off.
The Department of Health and Human Services said reinstatement notices were sent out this week. HHS did not give details about the rehiring decisions. Officials have confirmed that around 200 of the reinstated workers were from the CDC's National Center for HIV, Viral Hepatitis, STD, and Tuberculosis Prevention. Another 150 workers were from the CDC's National Center for Environmental Health. I'm Lisa Cart.
It's the 77 WABC News Hour.
Talking the news with Noam Laden.
All the news you need to know with Joe Nolan, traffic, Justin Ellick, sports. And now,
Talking the news with Noam
on 77 WABC.
Yes, that's me. Good morning. It is Monday, June 16th. Your forecast from the 77 WABC Weather Center. Showers this morning, clouds this afternoon, high 68. Tonight and overnight, clouds hang around, low 63. And then Tuesday, a mostly cloudy day. No showers in the forecast. High 71. If you are walking out the door with us right now, so happy you are. 61 and cloudy in Peekskill up in Westchester County. 56 and cloudy in Alpine over in New Jersey. And it's 61 and cloudy right outside our Midtown studios. WABC News Time 5:38. Mayor Adams being slammed after hosting an anti-Semitic influencer. His name is Sneeko, who has previously proclaimed down with the Jews. He brought him into Gracie Mansion for what was a friendly sit-down. Sneeko, whose real name is Nicholas Del Belenfazi, is 26 years old. And apparently his content is so over the top that he's been banned from Twitch. Now, if you're not familiar with Twitch, that's a gaming platform, but usually nobody's banned from Twitch. I can tell you from some of the stuff I've seen on there, but they banned this guy for extreme hateful conduct. So there's video that came out over the weekend on Instagram that shows the mayor smoking cigars with this guy on the porch at Gracie Mansion. Here's what it sounded like.
Has no fillers, no chemicals. It's the most organic.
He was talking about the cigars here, by the way.
Organic cigar you will have.
The best presentation going, you know.
It comes in its own Italian-made humidor, 4 inlays, and you're not lit.
Now, as this content got out there over the weekend, people slamming the mayor, Democratic Congressman Richie Torres from the Bronx going after Adams, saying he can't believe that he's smoking cigars with an anti-Semite who once declared down with the Jews. In a video later, Sneeko bragged about smoking cigars with the mayor. They talked Republican politics, which was sort of interesting during this sit-down. This woman who, I don't know who she was, but she was part of the crew that was on this porch at Gracie Mansion with the mayor and Sneeko, talking about how she went from being a Democrat to a Republican.
What was the reason that you said, you know what, because you were a Democrat before.
I was.
And you decided that, hey, now I want to go with.
I posted a picture of a overflowing trash can. I said, what is Donald Trump doing here? That's what I posted the last election. So my political views changed drastically because I felt slighted. I felt like the media lied to me.
All right, so Sneeko, whose content's been condemned as misogynistic, has ties to white nationalist Holocaust denier Nick Fuentes. Now, the mayor's spokesperson has defended his decisions down with this influencer. He says Mayor Adams has always stood strongly with the Jewish community and will continue to do so without compromise, but he didn't say why he sat down with this influencer who's known as being anti-Semitic. 541. A man was stabbed inside a Manhattan subway station is in the hospital as police try to track down his attacker.
Police say the 50-year-old victim had been arguing with another man at the West 4th Street Washington Square station in the West Village when he was stabbed in the neck. The New York Post reports it happened at 5:30 in the morning. Cops say he was rushed to Bellevue Hospital in critical condition with the knife still in his neck and required emergency surgery for serious injuries. The attacker got on a train and got away. I'm Lisa Salvati.
From Manhattan, let's go out to Brooklyn. 3-car collision there. This was early Sunday morning, injuring 4, including 2 NYPD cops. Crash happened. This was about 2 in the morning, intersection of Avenue U and Coney Island Avenue. Police say a 25-year-old man was traveling on Coney Island Avenue when he collided with the driver of another car. According to the NYPD, the crash then caused these cars to collide with a police car. Now, there was a lot of eyewitnesses, even though it was 2 in the morning.
It's like a bomb went off. I don't know how fast it was going, but they was definitely have to be going crazy how fast.
Officers arrested the driver of the Chevy that apparently has started this chain reaction crash, a 25-year-old.
2 police, one was stuck inside a cop car. The other one, I believe, was ejected out of the cop car because of the accident. Or he maybe pulled himself out, but he was on the ground with blood all over his face/chest.
Yeah, we don't know the condition of anybody in this accident that took place on Sunday morning. 5:43 in New Jersey. 2 of the 4 detainees who escaped an immigration detention center in Newark are back in police custody. According to authorities, Joel Lopez and Juan Sebastian Lozada have been found and arrested. Police still looking for 2 others. According to authorities, Sandoval Lopez is an undocumented migrant from Honduras who entered the U.S. as a minor. Police arrested him for unlawful possession of a handgun. And then they arrested him a second time for aggravated assault in February. Department of Homeland Security offering a $10,000 reward for information to help capture the other 2 detainees. Here was New Jersey Senator Andy Kim over the weekend talking about how these migrants got out of this detention center Thursday night into Friday morning. They broke through the drywall and then got out of the building.
We are going to now go and try to get full confirmation from ICE, from DHS headquarters about what is the future of this facility and whether or not they are going to shut it down.
Now, police have posted pictures of the 2 wanted men they have not been able to find. That is, some people who had loved ones in this detention center are speaking out, saying that the conditions were horrible. They're not surprised that there was an uprising, that people tried to get out. In this case, she claims that her cousin, who was being held at this ICE detention in Newark, was being starved.
He's lost over 25 pounds. He tells his wife and he tells us that when he gets up, he gets really dizzy because of the malnutrition. But they told them that was part of the tactic, so they can just go ahead and sign and auto-deport themselves.
Yes, so far, even though they've put these 2 pictures out there with a $10,000 reward for these 2 who have not been found yet, there's been no sign of them. But matter of time, I imagine video or the lure of that $10,000 reward, police will hopefully catch up with them. All right, 5:45. Let's head over to the 77 WABC Sports Desk, and here's Justin Ellick.
Thank you, Noam Layton. We'll start here on the diamond out in Boston. The Yanks got blanked 2-0, capping off a 3-game series sweep at the hands of the Red Sox. AL East leading New York went 0-for-5 with runners in scoring position and was swept in a series for the first time this year, getting shut out for the 3rd time. The Yankees' 4 runs matched their fewest in a 3-game series at Fenway Park. Yankees slugger Aaron Judge went 1-for-12 in the series with a solo homer and 9 strikeouts, dropping his major league leading average to .378. And he struck out 3 or more times in 3 straight games. After leading Boston to the win with his 5th inning home run, Rafael Devers was shockingly traded just a few hours later to the San Francisco Giants in a blockbuster move that shook up the league. Boston received left-handed starter Kyle Harrison, right-hander Jordan Hicks, outfield prospect James Tibbs III, and rookie league right-hander Jose Bello in the swap. The Giants will cover the remainder of Devers' contract, which runs through 2033, and will pay him more than $250 million. Up next for the Yankees, they'll return home to welcome in the LA Angels for a 4-game series starting tonight. Clark Schmidt will get the start in what will be a 7:05 p.m. first pitch from the Bronx. In Queens, the Mets got routed 9-0 by the Tampa Bay Rays in the finale of a 3-game set, suffering their first series sweep of the season in the process. New York pitchers walked a season-high 9 as the Mets were dealt their most lopsided loss this season and were swept in a series for the first time since last August. Griffin Canning allowed 6 runs, 4 hits, and a season-high 5 walks over 4 1/3 innings. Canning has a 6.75 ERA in his last 5 starts after posting a 2.47 ERA in his first 9. Up next for the Mets, they'll open a 6-game road trip tomorrow night in Atlanta after an off day today. We're looking ahead to the NBA hardwood tonight, 8:30 p.m. out in OKC. It's Game 5 of the NBA Finals between the Pacers and the Thunder. That series is tied at 2 games apiece. Then the Thunder are 9.5-point favorites in tonight's Game 5. And yesterday, from Oakmont Country Club, J.J. Spawn pulled away from the pack and captured his first major championship with a 2-stroke victory in the 125th U.S. Open. He birdied the 17th hole to go ahead by 1 stroke and then made a 64.5-foot birdie putt on the 18th to secure his unlikely victory and defeat Scotland's Robert McIntyre by 2 strokes. That is your Sports Know, man. I'm Justin Ellick on 77 WABC.
WABC News Time 5:49. Early voting began here in the city ahead of the primary June 24th. Over the weekend, you get 9 days of early voting, and it seems a fair amount of people took advantage of it over the weekend. And then over the weekend, we also found that 2 Democratic candidates in the race for mayor are cross-endorsing each other. Zohran Mamdani is teaming up with Brad Lander, and they're telling their voters to either put Zohran first or Brad second, or the other way around, depending on who your favorite is, in hopes to help each other win this primary.
Andrew Cuomo's campaign is a house of cards. The 2 strongest progressive campaigns can topple it together.
That's Zohran Mamdani. Mamdani and Lander are second and third in the polls behind Andrew Cuomo, so makes sense. They endorse each other, hoping that this ranked choice voting will help one or the other.
I believe it will help me to win. He believes it will help him to win. And we both believe it will help us together to stop Andrew Cuomo.
Okay, so as of early Sunday morning, so these numbers probably have likely gone up, 66,000 early check-ins, which is 66,000 voters across the 5 boroughs. Now it's a city of, more than 8 million people, but okay, that's still healthier than usual, apparently.
I know who I'm going to leave off the ranks and who I'm gonna be on the ranks.
I'm all set, baby. This is not a rocket science. You have 2 choices here,
Right.
vote or don't vote. If you vote, you have the right to make change. If you don't vote, shame on you.
Yeah.
Don't complain, and don't complain about the changes.
Yeah, I wasn't looking for a lecture, just for who you were voting for.
Just somebody that's fair and does the right thing.
I think one of the concerns for us is how much rent is and, just making New York more affordable again.
I would like to see a better city. I would like to see it cleaner, safer.
There's so much corruption. It's a joke.
All right, so the thought is Zohran Mamdani supporters are energized, and the numbers in Brooklyn were the highest, where apparently most of his, or a lot of his supporters are. So we saw the largest numbers there. Manhattan saw the second largest, the least amount of votes over the weekend. That was out on Staten Island. Now, that might point to the fact that a fair amount of Staten Islanders are Republicans. And really, Curtis is the only man in the race, so they're not as inspired to race out as soon as possible to vote for their candidate. 5:52. Police swarming in industrial area of North Arlington, New Jersey yesterday following an incident with a man who stole a car belonging to an Uber driver. This is a wild story that thankfully has not ended with anybody dead. It all started about 5 p.m. in Kearney when an Uber driver says his passenger got into the car and he looked in the rearview mirror and saw that he was loading a gun in the back seat. That's just what you want to see as an Uber driver.
He was frustrated with his girl, his wife. And
this is, by the way, a relative of the driver.
All that. And he was talking to himself, saying that she wants to get rid of me, and that she wants to kick me out of the house and all that. So with that, I think it escalated to anger.
Yeah, so it was some guy who got in the backseat who was angry with his girlfriend, his wife. It's not clear. So he pulls out this gun. The Uber driver's like, what the heck's going on in the backseat of the car? Then the gun goes off, narrowly misses the driver. Now, it doesn't seem like the driver was trying to shoot the bullet, but we don't know for sure.
I don't know if he wanted to intentionally shoot my brother, but he shot, but it didn't shoot him. It shoot him like 3 to 4 centimeters away from his head.
So the Uber driver, doing the smart thing, he got the hell out of the car, ran away. They believe the guy with the gun started to drive the car away.
My brother was shocked that he didn't know what to do, like anybody would feel. He's alive, thank God, so that's all we care.
And he gave a great description of who this creep was to police. And sure enough, police found him not too long later in North Arlington. He was shot by law enforcement. This was last night, taken to the hospital. Apparently okay, because he has since been discharged and apparently is behind bars this morning. 5:54. There was a vigil in Jersey City last night for a child who was hit and killed by a UPS truck as he was riding a bicycle with his father. It happened at the corner of Jersey Avenue and 6th Street. The child was pronounced dead at the scene. The UPS driver who hit him stayed at the scene, has been cooperative. We've been told the boy's name is Eli Bender, 6 years old. I can't even imagine this. I mean, he was riding his bike with his father when he was hit by this UPS truck. Hundreds last night gathering in Hamilton Park where this accident took place, holding candles in the rain to remember the young boy.
We're all hurting. The loss of one child is the loss. We feel it as a community. Speaking from myself as a mother of a 6-year-old, you know, you're constantly worried. We live around the corner from Eli, and my son and Eli were friends.
The family's rabbi was among those trying to be a pillar of strength for Eli's family.
Your life stops. You can't imagine how to take the next steps.
And it was interesting to hear these people who showed up at this vigil just talking about that it can be dangerous to ride around the streets of Jersey City on a bicycle, and they say more has to be done.
The community needs change. The community needs safer streets. I'm sick of instances in the 2-block walk to school where I've had to yell at drivers during school hours.
Yeah, to slow down, I've had to do that too. A UPS spokesperson saying in a statement that they're heartbroken by the tragic accident that took place in Jersey City. The investigation apparently ongoing. So far, that driver, the UPS driver, no charges have been filed against him. 5:55. Let's bring it back here into the city. There's a push to legalize bodega cats here in the city.
The effort comes from City Council member Keith Powers, who proposed a bill to change the city health code for the cats. He told Fox 5 the four-legged friends do help in the war on rats.
Keeping it clean, getting vermin out of the way. So they actually play a role within the bodega. But we want to make sure they're legal, they're vaccinated, they have all the resources they need to stay healthy, and that they can be healthy inside the store.
The cats you could find at city corner stores fall in a gray area and are not technically legal. However, Powers, who is running for Manhattan Borough President, wants to change that. The bill would require store owners to make sure cats have all their shots and are neutered. I'm Liz Radabali for 77 WABC News.
We'll end with this story. A group of twerking teenagers caused thousands of dollars in damage to a parked car in Crown Heights. So these kids showed up at a McDonald's, about 100 of them. Must have been some sort of online thing. Security kicked this group out of the McDonald's, so they started jumping on this one car and did tons of damage to it. Antoinette Fautis, it's her husband's vehicle.
I'm shocked. I'm still in shock. He was alerted by the security guard and people that were there that people were jumping up and down on his truck.
Yeah, they were blasting loud music and then twerking on top of this car. And, you know, when you're twerking on top of a car, it's not good for the car.
How much is the bill?
It's almost $3,000 for that to happen, you know, out of the blue. You know, it's very disheartening to see kids do something like that.
And, of course, insurance will only cover just a small fraction of it. So now they're asking the kids to come forward and be held accountable for the damage that they did. Yeah, good luck with that.
Thanks for listening to the News Hour with Noam Laden. You can hear the News Hour with Noam Laden weekday mornings at 5 on 77 WABC. If you like the podcast, share it with your friends and listen anytime at WABCRadio.com and download the WABC Radio app. Hit that subscribe button on all major podcast platforms. Plus, follow WABC on social on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. See you next time for a new episode, so you never have to wonder.
What the heck is going on here?